I know I might seem crazy, but like I'm telling you, I've got it all figured out. Deltarune, let's go. Are you an everyday nerd? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next episode. Yo, welcome to your Everyday Nerd, the show where we try to siphon views from popular trends, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm actually really excited about this episode. I'm your host, Zack Snyder, and today's Trendy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. On Tuesdays, we take a look at popular trends on the internet, and what's truly more popular right now than Undertale 2. And by the way, what the fuck was that ending? So today we're going to be talking about Deltarune, the prequel or sequel or alternate timeline version of Undertale. We're not 100% sure yet. We have a lot of questions, but I'm hoping to answer those questions today. And by the way, there will be a lot of spoilers in this video, so if you have not played Undertale or if you've not played Deltarune, you should probably go play those before you watch this video. Or if you don't care, then thanks for sticking around. So I have a very strange history with Undertale. Not as strange as, let's say, the Undertale fan base, but like, I started watching Markiplier play this game when it came out because I didn't have the money for it, and then he only played a couple episodes, and so it took me like another year before I actually bought the game. Then I started doing a let's play of it and lost the files, so I had to restart that let's play, but instead of doing that, I decided to stream the game, and then halfway through streaming, something happened, I got a new computer, so our files were going again, so to restart it once more, finally did a full let's play back in 2017 on my old channel, and I beat it. I did a true pacifist ending, and it was a great game. But I have not played anything else of it. In other words, I haven't done the popular genocide run. I decided to leave that to other people on the internet because honestly, I didn't want to go kill those characters that I had grown attached to. Or maybe I was just afraid of the Sans fight. Either way, I do know what happens in the genocide run. I've seen other people play parts of it. So when I found out that Deltarune, this new demo by Toby Fox just released recently, I finally had the chance to play it. And I gotta say, instead of waiting 3 years to play Undertale, I only waited a week to play Deltarune. So that's cool. So if you've been living under a rock for the last week, Deltarune is Toby Fox's new game. Toby Fox is the creator of Undertale. However, this is not a full game. This is only a demo. It's chapter 1 of a full story that's going to have who knows how many chapters, who knows how long this game is going to be. In fact, Toby Fox doesn't even know how long this game is going to be because it's not completed. So right off the bat, I should say if you liked Undertale, you will like Deltarune because it's pretty much Undertale, but with a new coat of paint and new music. It's more of the 16-bit Earthbound era, which is pretty cool for me because I like Earthbound, and I know Toby Fox takes inspiration for Earthbound to make these two games. So it's really cool to see full colored maps that are very similar to Earthbound. It's really cool to hear the weird sounds and music that are very similar to Earthbound. It's almost like playing Earthbound except in a new universe in 2018. Plus, the gameplay mechanics are extensively fuller and more fleshed out and more of a traditional RPG manner while still maintaining the awesome heart-based combat that you see in Undertale. Now, since this was just a demo, I was actually very surprised at how much gameplay was here. I mean, I played for a good 4 to 5 hours, especially considering there's a secret boss who's really hard. I mean, he's fair. He's a lot more fair than a certain Photoshop flower that we know, but he was also really difficult. So once again, if you haven't played Deltarune, I'm going to encourage you to go and leave the video now. Trust me, I'd love the watch time, but I'm about to spit out so many spoilers, it's going to be crazy. Chaos. Are you guys ready for what I think to be the answers to this insane game? With all the similarities that Deltarune has to Undertale, we find out very soon that there's one key reason why we're not playing Undertale 2. This key piece was choice. You had the option to listen to a flower at the beginning of the game that told you it's kill or be killed and go kill everybody, or you could listen to your goat mommy who tells you to not kill anybody and spare them instead. It's a pretty simple dichotomy to the overall game that ends up making a very significant difference. There are branching paths to every single different choice you make. Every single time you play the game, there are going to be differences. This isn't a Telltale game where you're only given the illusion of choice. This is an Undertale game where choice is the main factor to your journey and your destination. Meanwhile, in Deltarune land, there is no choice. Rather, anytime you're given a choice, it literally doesn't matter. From the very beginning of choosing a character and giving it a name, to building a fucking duck machine for the enemies, you're met with the same response. Your choices do not matter. You can make a character and name it Ugandan Knuckles and give it a cool hairdo, but it doesn't matter because you're going to be playing as the main character, Chris. And Chris is very essential to the story of Deltarune, but also the story of Undertale. See, for you to understand everything about this episode, we need to talk about 3 very important key traits to who Chris is as a character. Number 1, Chris is an underachiever. While his brother has a bunch of trophies and interests on his side of the room, Chris just has a birdcage. Nice birdcage you have there, Chris. Number 2, Chris is a bully. And he's not much of a talker. We know this because when we talk to the other characters at the end of the game, they're very surprised that we're being as talkative as we are. And number 3, Chris really likes chocolate. He likes chocolate so much that his mother has to hide chocolate in her room so that he can't get it. Plus he also drinks hot chocolate a lot at the local diner. Now all this is super important to unfolding the mystery behind this scene. Now, if you're like me, an innocent bystander to what I thought was just going to be a pleasant experience of a game, you're probably thinking 2 things. Now, if you're like me, an innocent bystander of what I thought was just going to be a pleasant experience of a game, you're probably thinking 2 things. Number 1, what the fuck was that? And number 2, I probably should go see a psychiatrist now. If you're also like me, you have a few questions about who Chris is and the nature of this entire game. So here's the main questions that I had. Who exactly is Chris? Chaos. What are you doing? Seriously? So here's the main questions that I have. Who exactly is Chris? Why does Chris just rip his soul out like that? How is Deltarune connected to Undertale? And number 4, is Susie a tsundere? Fortunately, I think I have most of the answers to these questions. For starters, yes, Susie is definitely a tsundere. I mean, she makes this character change from evil bitch to who she is at the end with making friends and stuff. So that one's out of the way. So let's talk about question 3. How is Deltarune and Undertale connected? And I think by figuring out the answers to this question, we're going to be able to figure out the answers to the first 2 questions about who exactly is Chris and why does he rip his soul out. After deliberating a while, I figured out 3 possible solutions to how Deltarune is connected to Undertale. The first solution is that Deltarune is a prequel. For starters, all the characters that we knew from Undertale are back in Deltarune, meaning that this could either be a prequel or a sequel, although Toby Fox has already said that this isn't a sequel. But I'm not 100% sure about that, so we're going to leave that on the back burner, talk about that later. Toriel is back, although there's no mentions or reference to Frisk whatsoever, which means that it's very possible that this is a time before Frisk. We also know that Asgore is alive. At the end of Undertale, no matter what happens, no matter what your choices are, Asgore always dies. Also, Azrael is back, and as you know from Undertale, Azrael actually dies before Undertale. However, we also know that Asgore and Toriel were married at one point, and now they've split up. We know that this happens before Undertale, which means that since they're split up in Deltarune, this could in fact be a prequel. Plenty of other characters make their return here, and even Sans and Papyrus are here. All of this points to pre-Undertale. it would be pretty safe to assume that this is indeed a prequel. Except for the fact that we have to rule this out because of some key plot holes. For starters, in order for this to be a prequel, Chris would be Toriel's second adopted son, right behind Kara, which means that Kara is dead, and also Azrael would not be going to college, he would also be dead, hopping around somewhere as a sunflower. This would also be the reason that ends up splitting up Toriel and Asgore. After Azrael is dead, Asgore goes on a murdering spree to humans, and as it turns out, we actually hug Asgore as a human, so he's not out for human blood right now, and he's the king of a flower shop, not the underground like he is in Undertale. However, it appears that there is one character that knows us from Undertale, but I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. I want you to keep this in mind though, because as we continue to answer this question, this is going to be one of the big parts that holds everything together. So we ask once again, how is Deltarune connected to Undertale? And this is what I believe to be option number 2. Deltarune is in fact an alternate timeline or parallel world to Undertale. Now, I'm not the first one to make this claim. In fact, lots of people have already been talking about it on the internet, but here's the evidence that I think backs this theory up. All the characters are essentially the same characters, but with different occupations. But again, Asgore doesn't die in this timeline. Azrael, he's also not dead in this timeline. Which means instead of Kara falling down the hole and Asgore and Toriel taking care of him, Chris falls down the hole instead and Asgore and Toriel take care of him. In this timeline, Asgore and Toriel are not kings and queens. Asgore is a flower shop owner and Toriel is a school teacher. In this timeline, Chris doesn't die like Kara does, which means that Azrael doesn't die and instead he goes to college. And to further this, these are the words from Toby Fox when asked, is Deltarune a sequel? Please don't worry too much about that. I will say that basically what you're seeing here is not the world of Undertale. Undertale's world and ending are the same as however you left them. Deltarune's world is a different one, with different characters that have lived different lives. A whole new story will happen. I don't know what you call this kind of game, it's just a game you can play after you complete Undertale, if you want to. That's all. So as Toby has said, Undertale's world and Deltarune's world are different, with different characters that have lived different lives. Which means Deltarune is in fact an alternate timeline. There is no Kara, there is no dead Asgore, there is no Flowey, this is Chris's story. Except, nope, I don't think that's entirely correct. I think it's possible that it's an alternate timeline, but I think there's more to it. And this brings me to option 3 to be the definitive answer as to how Deltarune is connected to Undertale. We've got to ask those first 2 questions first. Who is Chris and why does he rip out his soul? If this was an alternate timeline, why on earth would Chris rip out his own soul? He doesn't seem to be similar to Kara, who died, right? Or is he? That's right. I think that Chris could actually be Kara. And not only that, but I think that Toby Fox kind of ignored the question that he asked himself about whether or not Deltarune is a sequel, because I believe that Deltarune is an actual sequel. I believe that Toby Fox kind of persuaded us to think differently just with his wording. But I think that Deltarune is a sequel of Undertale, but not the entirety of Undertale. Let me explain. In the answer to, is this a sequel? Toby Fox states that it's very clear that if everyone is happy in your ending of Undertale, the people in the Undertale world would still be happy. But Toby, what if everyone wasn't happy in my ending of Undertale? What if you did a genocide run instead? What if you killed everyone and now you're just an idiot baby? Well, if you did something as horrific as killing everyone in a world, then you probably need to go to hell. And this is option 3. Kara's own personal hell. When starting up Deltarune, we play as Chris. But what if Chris is actually just Kara? And this is his hell. Now, I'm going to take a quick deviation to explain something else that's so strange that it might just be the links to putting all of this together and really figuring out how Deltarune is connected to Undertale. Remember when I said that there was one character in Deltarune that remembers us? One character that has no other connections to us in this world, rather than the fact that we just happen to stop by and talk to him at the end of the game? but for some reason he recognizes you? Well, meet Burger Pants. Y'all remember Burger Pants from Undertale, right? Yeah, I told you this is gonna get a little weird. Let's listen to me. After the chapter is over and you walk around, you find a nice little pizza place. This pizza place is closed though because all the employees are outside in these goofy outfits. But when you talk to them, you find out that the last one is Burger Pants from Undertale. He calls us little buddy just like he does in Undertale, and he says that he knows us. And weirdly enough, he's not the only character in Deltarune that remembers us. Someone lied to us. You remember how I said that Sans just moved into this neighborhood? And when you go to speak to him and you say, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "I don't know you." But what's the one thing he does whenever he has some kind of pun or joke? He winks at us. Sans knows us somehow. So here we have two characters from Undertale whose only connection to us in Deltarune is the fact that they remember us from Undertale. When you're talking to Burger Pants, you have the option to ask him a few questions. You can ask him about his job. And when you ask him about his job, he also replies that this job was hell. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, he just said the word hell. That doesn't mean that this whole hell theory is correct, but I think it might be. And here's why. Because when you also ask him about his coworkers, he mentions a couple of coworkers that get on his nerves, but he also mentions one coworker that was so out of place I had to take a double take. He mentions the purple guy. A guy which he realizes, oh, never mind, this guy doesn't work at this pizza shop. Now, some of you guys are probably thinking, who the hell is the purple guy? Well, buckle up because this gets wild. Purple Guy is the key person that holds together a bunch of strings in all of the popular Five Nights at Freddy's theories. It's a completely different franchise that has a ton of theories surrounding it. So why on earth would Toby Fox bring back this shopkeeper, Burger Pants, and not the other ones from Undertale? Why would he not only bring him back, but also make it clear that he recognizes us? And oh, let's bring up this key person in another popular franchise with a bunch of theories surrounding it that has the answers to a lot of those questions. In other words, I think that Burger Pants is the key to holding everything in this theory together. Burger Pants is how we know that this world, Deltarune, is in fact a sequel to specifically the genocide run in Undertale. So you finish the genocide run in Undertale and Kara shows up killing Frisk, erasing the world and saying that they will be together forever. Now we start up Deltarune. The text "Are we connected?" pops up. A red heart pops up. This red heart belongs to Frisk. This text belongs to Kara. We are now in a new world. This world is hell. You're asked to create a vessel, so you create one. But as it turns out, it doesn't matter. No one can choose who they are in this world. Your choices don't matter. And who was the last one to say this to you? That's right, it was Kara at the end of Undertale, at the end of a genocide run. And so you're given your name, Chris. Chris, a name that just so happens to be a mixture between Kara and Frisk. Is that a weird coincidence? I don't think so. The body that you created just minutes ago doesn't matter because this is Kara's body, and the red heart that we saw, the soul, that's Frisk's soul at the end of the genocide run. Kara says that they will be together forever, and here they are, together. And if this is a purgatory or if this is hell, then they will definitely be together forever. Oh, and also at the beginning of this episode, I told you that Chris had some 3 primary traits, that he was a bully, that he didn't have any interests, and what was the third one? Chris really likes chocolate. You know who else also really likes chocolate? Kara. Not only that, but they also wear the exact same clothes, and they also look oddly similar to each other. Kara was awakened by Frisk, but he had no soul. The soul is what you would need to move on to the afterlife. So why not find a new soul so that you can move on? The only other human soul available to Kara is Frisk's. All the other humans are gone in Undertale. It just so happens to be that Frisk kills everybody, meaning that there'd be only one place in the afterlife that this guy's soul could go to. Hell. And now we have the answers to all of our questions. Number 1, who is Chris? Chris is an amalgamation or a combination of Kara's body and Frisk's soul. Number 2, why did Chris cut out his soul? Because that was actually Frisk's soul and he doesn't need it anymore. Number 3, how is Deltarune connected to Undertale? Deltarune is a direct sequel to the genocide run of Undertale, and what I believe to be the afterlife, Kara's hell. And number 4, is Suzy a tsundere? Yeah, I already said that. I said that in the beginning. I answered that one. That one's an easy one. That was the easiest one of the whole entire episode. But there's one thing that's messing us up here. Toby Fox said that Deltarune was not a sequel. We already established that. Well, actually, he didn't explicitly say that. So let's deconstruct Toby Fox's own words like we would a politician's own words, because he ignored the question and said something that actually proves this is a sequel to the genocide route in Undertale. Toby's post here came a month before Deltarune was released, meaning that he knew exactly what kind of questions people were going to ask, and he knew exactly what answers to give them. He could also carefully construct these answers, similar in a way that Scott Cawthon of Five Nights at Freddy's lore has done in the past, which is why Burger Pants was so important that we had to bring him up earlier. Now, this first sentence. Why would people not be able to properly enjoy this game if they know exactly what it is? Well, a lot of people didn't actually want to do a genocide run in Undertale. They thought that it was kind of going to be sad, so they just did the pacifist run. So if this was a direct sequel to the genocide run instead of the pacifist run, Toby might actually be afraid that people might not like this game as much, because it's not a happy ending. He also uses the word laugh in parentheses, which means, in other words, he knows exactly what he's doing here. He goes on to say, I will say that basically what you're seeing here is not the world of Undertale. Undertale's world and ending are the same as however you left them. If everyone was happy in your ending, the people in the Undertale world will still be happy. So please don't worry about those characters and that world. It will remain untouched. Once again, this establishes that the happy world in Undertale and the happy ending of Undertale will remain untouched. That is just half of the equation. He says nothing about the genocide ending. He goes on to say, Deltarune's world is a different one, with different characters that have lived different lives. You mean the same kind of lives that are entirely created for the sake of putting someone through their own little personal hell? And finally, he says, a whole new story will happen. I don't know what you call this kind of game. It's just a game you can play after you complete Undertale. If you want to, that's all. Deltarune is just a game that you can play after you complete Undertale. In other words, this game has to be played after you've played Undertale in order to make sense of the full story. You won't get the same experience out of it if you don't play Undertale first. And finally, he says the words, if you want to. In other words, if you've beaten Undertale and you've either done or know about the genocide route, you now have the choice to go down this even darker path. This path that you've created by killing everybody. Deltarune is not a happy game. Deltarune showed you from the very beginning that some characters are not as they appear to be, and even the main protagonist, Chris, is in fact someone entirely different. You now have one last choice: to play Deltarune and see the horrors that await it, or to not play the game at all. And make that decision wisely, because it's clear that our choices won't matter anymore at this point.
Well, I guess I'm a sellout now.
Did you enjoy this video? And maybe you're thinking, hey Zach, I want to know how to do the things you did in the video, like video editing or thumbnail designs. Well, you're in luck, because today I'm introducing you to Skillshare, or maybe you've heard about Skillshare before, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it anyways. In today's world, everybody wants to be a YouTuber, but they may not know how to develop the proper skills that it takes to put out quality content on the regular. You know, to please the almighty YouTube algorithm. You could be like me, who took 7 years of hard work and dedication to learn how to edit videos at least decently. Or you could use Skillshare, which is an online learning platform with tons of classes taught by some of the best teachers in their respective fields. In other words, if you want to learn photography, why not learn it from someone who's successful at photography? If you want to learn video editing, web development, writing, or more, Skillshare is the place to go. It's affordable, it's useful, and if you use the link in the description box below, you can get 2 free months. That's right, 2 completely free months, 60 days, completely free on me. So go, children. Go learn to be a better YouTuber than me. You can do it. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for bearing with me on this longer episode of Your Everyday Nerd. I played Deltarune and then the wheel started spinning and damn, this was a really good game. Good job, Toby Fox. Anyways, if you liked the video, you know what to do, and I will definitely be talking more about this game in the future. See you then. Goodbye.